Welcome to Lead Today with me, Kalina. Let's talk leadership. This episode would not be possible without Anchor. It's free and the easiest way to make a podcast. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Good to be back with you in another episode of the show. We're in the 5th episode of the series on logical levels, where we're looking at how you can best develop your career using this framework. Loads of questions to answer and examples along the way. I hope you found it valuable so far. If you are actually moving in the other direction based on my suggestion and started with environment, then welcome to the 2nd episode of your logical level journey. No matter where you're starting in, actually, you can start logical levels anywhere, as I've said in other episodes. You can really start anywhere depending on where your thinking is on a particular topic. So if you're really thinking about actions, but you're not really clear on all the other levels, then you just start where you're at and fill in the other levels. You go up and down as you can. No matter where you start, you can always clarify. If you're liking these episodes, if you like the show, please subscribe, write a review. It makes all the difference. And if you want to support the show, please click the link in the show notes to get some access to behind the scenes content and support me in making more content for you. So, actions and behaviors. First of all, I realized in the last episode, got a bit ahead of myself, should have just given you the difference between the two from the get-go, but I get so riled up about things. So the difference between behavior and action is the act of doing something, but behavior is more about the way in which you act. So when you think about, you can take out the garbage. I took out the garbage. Okay. So you wheeled the garbage can down to the end of the driveway and you put it out. But how did you do that? So I carefully took out the garbage. It's like, okay, you're getting more insight into the behavior, the behavioral norms of a person, right? I mean, you can have 10 kids write a math test and they do it 10 different ways. So behavior is more unique to the individual. Action's a bit more basic, where you don't know the nuances necessarily. And that's how we're going to define it in this construct. I'm sure there are different ways to define these two words, but in the realm of logical levels and what we're doing here, action is the act of doing something, and behavior is more about the way in which you act, how you do it. So with that in mind, if you are an action-oriented individual, if you like to do things, then this level is for you. I think with how busy things are and how many different competing priorities many of us have on our plates, it's really easy to stick in this level these days, right? It's just like task manager, to-do list, check. Next thing, what's the next thing? And we get into a bit of a perpetual doing mode. And that's really at this level. So a lot of us are very accustomed to living in the behavior level of logical levels. So you probably know what it's all about. But some questions you can start asking yourself if you want to look at your behavior in regards to actually achieving your vision or the person you're being or the values that you're living, the values that you say are important to you in a coaching session with me, for example, your behavior might be in complete conflict with your values that you state. So this is a good kind of moment if you want to kind of check in and say, okay, I defined these values a couple of episodes ago. I said that this is the person I want to be. My vision, I declared my vision and purpose is this big thing. But when I'm real with myself, my behavior is not in alignment with the values, the person I want to be. So this is a moment of reckoning in a sense, where if you want to take a look at your behavior, you can ask yourself, how am I behaving? Because maybe you're going through the motions, right? Acting is doing things, but behaving is the way in which you do them, right? So how have you been behaving? You can be, a husband, you can be a colleague, you can be a friend, but are you being a really lousy friend? You're still being a friend to someone, right? Oh yeah, I went to their shower and I went to their wedding. I celebrated. Oh, I went to their grandmother's funeral. Yeah, I called them once, I called them once a week, or yeah, we got together for lunch. But it's like, was it fulfilling? And in this level, what I like to kind of challenge clients to consider is that behavior side of things, because it's so easy to make a to-do list. So, on the action side of this thing, it's like, okay, so the question would be, what actions would you like to take to bring your vision to reality, right? And you start listing. You can think of all, okay, I got to sign up for the course. I got to make a budget. I need to go and email this person. I need to call this person. I should maybe set up a co-working space. I should go and get a business license, register my business. I need a bank account. Like people are really good, generally speaking, at fleshing out a list of things to do. If that's not you, totally okay. Sometimes if something's new to you, you might feel like, well, there's so many things to do. I don't know where to start. When it comes to that, what I would say is first, map out the things you need. Google's a brilliant resource. Like, okay, starting at a business, or I want to go on a trip alone to Tahiti, or I'm going to get married, or I want a promotion, and, get a to-do list of things. And then the next step is to prioritize them. And sometimes I think people miss the mark on this too, where they'll know that they have 1,000 things to do, and then it becomes so overwhelming, and then we don't do them because there's just so many things, right? It's like, okay, if you have 30 things on your plate, well, which ones have to happen today? Like, which ones really are important that need to happen today? What's a priority? And write out 3 things that you're going to get done today. And maybe those 3 things will get done, because when it's 100 things, there's a phone call, an email, laundry, a dog, like stuff just happens, and things sideswipe your attention. So on the action front, totally make a list of action steps. If you've never done whatever it is that you want to do before, look it up. And there's so many guides for just about anything. And if there isn't a guide for that business that you want to start, use your prior expertise in the arena. If you have no expertise, interview someone. Like, go talk to someone, be like, hey, I see that you've done this thing. What is the first thing I need to think about? Or what are some of the core things I should do? But most of the time, we have way too many action steps and way too little follow through, from what I find in coaching sessions. But if you're really stuck on, okay, I actually have never bought a house before, I have no idea how to, buy a house, what that even means, look it up online. Talk to some people that have done it. Those are key action steps when you're first getting started on anything, right? You want to go to a new school, talk to some people that have graduated from there. You want to start a new program, you want to start a business in a certain industry, talk to some competitors. Like, you're not going to be the only person on the block. And if you're super nuanced, there'll still be relatable or comparable offerings. So like, you're never alone. So if you really feel like you don't know what to do from an action perspective, like a task perspective, totally reach out to people. There's so many people willing to help out there. And then, so let's go to the behavior thing again, because this is the one that really cranks my gears. This one gets me going. Behaviors are the way that you do these things, right? It's kind of like, I think it brings more meaning to everything, because you can be finishing all of these tasks, but you can be doing it in a really crappy way. How are you behaving? Right? And really be honest with yourself, because I've had to do this with myself a couple of times. I got to do it a couple times a day. But, there have been a few sort of points in my life where it's been like, how am I behaving toward this person? Am I taking them for granted? Am I being, self-absorbed, or just paying attention to myself? Am I really showing up as a friend? Am I being thoughtful? All these things that I think are important to me. Am I living them? And the way that you can know is, at this level, really take stock and be real. How are you behaving is the question I would ask. Because if you're, especially with clients, like if they're coming in and they're very vision driven, and I get it, it's so me, you've got this big vision, you've got these big ideas, but in reality, you're not doing anything to get toward that vision, then it's just a lot of hot air, and you're wasting your time and your money talking to me if you don't want to follow through. And that's the biggest thing that happens in coaching, right? Is people are like, oh, I've got this big vision. They get all amped up in a coaching session. They leave, nothing happens. They come back and it's like, what'd you do? Nothing. And then they feel guilty, right? And so, I mean, that's why habit tracking and looking at daily behaviors and chunking habits, like there are strategies when you work with a coach that can really help you to actually take action and chunk down a project, right? And that's what this level is for, this logical level of action. So if your actions are really big, like more of a goal, like, okay, make $10,000 in my business, right? You just started a business, make my first 10,000. It's like, well, okay, but that's a goal, right? That's not an action. It could be in one action. You could call someone and get a $100,000 contract. Like maybe it is one phone call, but that's more of a goal. So being very clear also, goals are not actions. Actions are things you do, right? You make a phone call, you have a meeting, you write an email, you record a podcast episode. That's an action. A goal is something different, and making sure that you have goals, super cool, but put those more in like a vision section. And if they're really specific, maybe you chunk them into this section, but I find that people usually like to take their vision at the number one level, like the top logical level, and kind of parse that down into goals. So usually we'll do that in that section where it's more like, okay, here's my broad vision and here are the milestones. If you think of like climbing a mountain, right? You climb a mountain and then you kind of have the different checkpoints along the way. And that's kind of what you do when you set up your vision. Which these are short episodes. I wish I had more time in each one of them to kind of delve into each number further, because there's so many different ways that we can kind of change our point of view to I guess examine each one of these logical levels. But back to actions and behaviors. Make that to-do list of things that you need to do in regards to the project or position or area of your life that you've been focused on in listening to this series of episodes with me. And take a look at how you've been behaving, because that's going to be critical to you being the person you want to be. Because that's what it is, right? These values, we identify values, but the reality is who we are, right? On that identity level we talked about and what's important to us, we show that in our day-to-day actions strongly. So if you want to be a good friend, if you want to be a great boss, if you want to be an awesome mom, don't just say that on your value level, right? This is a chance for you to do an audit. So I'd invite you to, from this episode, make your to-do list and do a real audit on the kind of behavior you've been. I feel a bit like an elementary school teacher that's like, look at your behavior, like you're behaving poorly. I'm not trying to, get on your back, but it is, it's kind of a moment for you to just check in and say, like, am I being the person I want to be? And that comes through in my little actions. And the little actions, the behaviors, this level is actually where you can really make a lot of headway, right? Because it just takes having a second more of patience. It just means, giving a hug instead of a cut eye. Smile at someone that's walking toward you or around you instead of kind of giving them the glare. Like, we have choices, and they're very small, and they happen in minute, just like these micro expressions and little interactions we have. And those are actually some of the most amazing interactions I have in my day, or small little chance happenings, like seeing my neighbors across the street have been married for 60 years and just having a chat with them in their garage. It's like little moments where I get to choose how I'm behaving, right? So behave kindly, be the person you want to be through your daily actions and the way you choose to behave. And thank you so much for choosing this as a part of your day. It means so much to me that you listen to the show and take part by considering some of the things I have to share. I would not be doing the show without you. So really appreciate you, and I'll see you for the final episode of the series. We'll be talking about environment, which has a huge impact on how well we act and behave and what's available to us. So stay tuned for the next episode on environment, and take good care until we see each other again.